Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today I have a very exciting build to show you guys, which features a $5 desktop that I found at a local thrift store. So what you're watching here is actually the first time of me opening up the desktop and finding what's inside. Now at the thrift store, I did know the model number, so I kind of had an idea of the specs inside, but given the thrift store rules, it wasn't guaranteed that it would work, but given that it was only $5, I thought it was worth the risk to take. Looking at the inside, everything was intact except that the hard drive was missing, which is understandable. So this desktop features an AMD Athlon 64X2 5000 Plus with 1GB of DDR2 RAM. Again, there was no hard drive. The PSU is rated at 300 watts and there was no GPU found. Look around the desktop, you can see that this thing is very filthy with dust accumulated over the years. Now before I started cleaning this thing, I installed a spare 160GB hard drive and a test GPU I had on hand to make sure that this thing did boot up. So knowing that it works, I started cleaning this thing with canned air, blowing out all the dust, and I took out the fan and heatsink to clear off all the dust as well, as you can see, and I applied new thermal paste to this thing. Next, you'll see me install the 160GB hard drive that I had on hand, and on eBay they usually go for about $10. Since I threw out the mounting fixture for the hard drive in the beginning of the video, I used Velcro tapes instead to mount the hard drive to the side of the case. I've done this in the past and these things are fairly cheap and effective. To make this thing try to run games, I added a Radeon HD 7570, which I picked up for $22 on eBay, and 4 gigs of DDR2 RAM, which I had spare, but could be picked up on eBay for about $10. The reason why I went with the older GPUs was because of the CPU bottleneck. Anything newer would be pointless in games because the CPU would be holding it back. So using eBay prices at the time of recording to estimate the cost of the parts I had on hand, the total comes to an estimated $47. Now with the build out of the way, let's get to some gaming benchmarks. And because of the CPU bottleneck, all of the gaming benchmarks were recorded on my camcorder instead of screen capture. The first game is Crysis 1, and yes, it can run Crysis. Although I encountered some stuttering at 1080p with a mix of low and medium settings, the game ran at an average of 37.4 FPS. Next we have Tomb Raider at 1080p low settings. This game ran surprisingly well with an average of 43.1 FPS and one of the fewer titles that were GPU intensive, so the CPU was not a bottleneck in this case. Here we have Ultra Street Fighter 4 at 1080p medium settings. Now this game ran an average of 59.7 FPS, which is very playable. Although I did see some dips to the 40s, in my opinion it wasn't a big deal and the game ran surprisingly well. Next we have Dota 2 at 1080p low settings. Now this game ran at an average of 35.4 FPS with a minimum of 22.8. Although I thought this game was playable, I wouldn't recommend it for online play, as the stutters in team fights could be the difference between winning or losing. So here you have it, an old obsolete $5 desktop that I tried to bring back to life. Although it was a fun experiment, I wouldn't recommend it financially, as that money spent could be used towards something better. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.